Hi there. We are on day 14 of our Through the New Testament in the order that the events actually happen. And we're covering four Gospels at once, a little bit to follow the story through. We're up to the part where he just finished the Sermon on the Mount, and he went home. They lowered the man through the roof, and he taught his disciples the Lord's Prayer. And today he's going to start talking about the parables. So Matthew 13 and Luke 8 is what we're reading today. Okay. The parable of the sower. That same day Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea, and great crowds gathered about him, so that he got into a boat and sat down, and the whole crowd stood on the beach. And he told them many things in parables, saying, A sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seeds fell along the path, and the birds came and devoured them. Other seeds fell on a rocky ground where they did not have much soil, and immediately they sprang up, and since they had no depth of soil, but when the sun rose, they were scorched, and since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil and produced grain, and some 100-fold, some 60-fold, some 30. He who has ears, let him hear. Right? Now, do you get that parable? The main thing is to sow your seeds, right? Sow them everywhere. So, right? Purpose of the parables. The disciples came and said to him, Why do you speak to them in parables? And he answered them, To you it has been given to know the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. For to the one who has, more will be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. That is why I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, and hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand. Indeed, in their case, the prophecy of Isaiah is fulfilled that says, You will indeed hear, but never understand, and you will indeed see, but never perceive. For this people's heart has grown dull, and with their ears they can barely hear, and their eyes they have closed, lest they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their heart and turn, and I would heal them. Right? Jesus wants you to seek him out. Okay? It's that simple. He wants you to seek him out. Right? Seek him out. Then you will understand. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For truly I say to you, many prophets and righteous people long to see what you see and did not see it, and to hear what you hear and did not hear it. Yes, Isaiah, Daniel, every book in the Old Testament speaks about Jesus, and they all long to see him. Okay, the parable of the sower explained. Hear then the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what has been sown in his heart. This is what was sown along the path. As for what was sown in rocky ground, the one who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy, yet he has no root in himself, but endures for a while. And when tribulation and persecution arises on account of the word, immediately he falls away. As for what is sown among thorns, is the one who hears the word, but the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and it proves unfruitful. A lot of those today, right? As for what was sown on good soil, this is one who hears the word and understands it. He indeed bears fruit and yields, in one case 100-fold, in another 60, in another 30. The parable of the weeds. He put another parable before him, saying, The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while his men were sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. So when the plants came up and bore grain, the weeds appeared also. And the servants of the master of the house came and said, Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? How then does it have weeds? He said to them, An enemy has done this. So the servants said to him, Then do you want us to go and gather them? And he said, No, lest in gathering the weeds you root up the wheat along with them. Let both grow together until the harvest, and at harvest time I will tell the reapers, Gather the weeds first, bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn. Right? There will be a judgment for everybody. Right? He put another parable for him, saying, The kingdom of heaven is like a grain of mustard seed that a man took and sowed in his field. It is the smallest of all seeds, but when it has grown, it is larger than all the garden plants, and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and make nests in its branches. Smallest amount of faith, right? Told him another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like leaven. that a woman took and hid in 3 measures of flour till it was all leavened. Right? Yeast, they call it nowadays. All these things Jesus said to the crowds in parables. Indeed, he said nothing to them without a parable. This was to fulfill what was spoken by the prophet. I will open my mouth in parables, and I will utter what has been hidden since the foundation of the world. Parable of the weeds explained. Then he left the crowds and went into the house. And his disciples came to him, saying, Explain to us the parable of the weeds of the field. He answered, The one who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. Right? The field is the world, and the good seed is the sons of the kingdom. The weeds are the sons of the evil one, and the enemy who has sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are angels. Just as the weeds are gathered and burnt with fire, so will it be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all causes of sin and lawbreakers, and throw them into the fiery furnace. In that place will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He who has ears, let him hear. Parable of the hidden treasure. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and covered up. Then in his joy, he goes and sells all he has and buys that field. Right? The parable of the pearl of great value. And again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls, who, on finding a pearl of great value, went and sold all he had and bought it. Right? To give up everything for Jesus. Right? Great value. Parable of the net. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was thrown into the sea and gathered fish of every kind. When it was full, men drew it ashore and sat down and sorted the good into containers, but threw away the bad. So will it be at the end of the age. The angels will come out and separate the evil and the righteous and throw them into the fiery furnace, in that place where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. New and old treasures. Have you understood all these things? They said to him, Yes. And he said to them, Therefore every scribe who has been trained for the kingdom of heaven is like a master of a house, who brings out of his treasure what is new and what is old. Jesus rejected at Nazareth. And when Jesus would finish these parables, he went away from there. Coming to his hometown, he taught them in their synagogue, so that they were astonished and said, Where did this man get his wisdom and these mighty works? Is not this the carpenter's son? Is not this a mother called Mary? And are not his brothers James and Joseph and Simon and Judas? He had 4 brothers, right? And are not all his sisters with us? Where then did this man get all these things? And they took offense at him. But Jesus said to them, A prophet is not without honor except in his hometown and in his own household. And he did not do many mighty works there because of their unbelief. Right. So he had 4 brothers, and I think he had 2 sisters, but it doesn't really say their names, right? Interesting. Okay, so that's Matthew 13, and we're going to go over to, scroll to the top here. We're going to find Luke chapter 8. Right? Yep, Luke chapter 8. Our list there. Okay. Let's read the whole thing all over again, right? In Luke's version of it, Peter, okay? Luke was like a reporter, and he interviewed lots of people to get his gospel, okay? And he was also a doctor, and he hung around, spent a lot of time with Paul, taking care of Paul at the latter part of his ministry. So, okay. Women accompanying Jesus. Soon afterward, he went out through the cities and villages, proclaiming and bringing the good news of the kingdom of God. And the 12 were with him, and also some women who had been healed of evil spirits and infirmities. Mary, called Magdalene, right, from whom 7 demons had gone out, and Joanna, the wife of Chuza, Herod's household manager, and Susanna, and many others who provided for them out of their means, right? And we know, besides the women, there was, because when they had to replace Judas Iscariot, they chose between 125 disciples that had been with Jesus since he was baptized. There was always, besides the 12, there was at least 125 that were always there, and all the women that didn't count. So he probably had a crowd of a couple hundred people with him at all times. And the thousands that would gather in the cities that he would go to. Right? Okay. Let's read these again. Okay. Okay, the parable is over. And when a great crowd was gathering, the people among the town came to him. He said in a parable, a sower went out to sow his seed, and as he sowed, some fell along the path and was trampled underfoot, and the birds of the air devoured it. Some fell on a rock and grew up and withered away because it has no moisture. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up with it and choked it. Some fell into good soil and grew and yielded 100-fold. As he said these things, he called out, "He who has ears, let him hear." Okay, a very shortened version, right? Purpose of the parables. And when his disciples asked him what this parable meant, he said, "To you it has been given to know the secrets of the kingdom of God, but for others they are in parables." Okay, now it doesn't say his apostles, it says his disciples, okay? So that seeing they may not see, and hearing they may not understand. Another parable was this. Say, you notice he didn't say here why he talks in parables. That was in Matthew. Okay. Ones along the path are those who have heard, and then the devil comes and takes away the word from their hearts so that they may not believe and be saved. The ones on the rock are those who hear the word, receive it with joy, but they have no root. They believe for a while, and in time of testing fall away. And as for what fell among the thorns, here are those who hear, but as they go on their way, they are choked by the cares and riches and pleasures of life, and their fruit does not mature. As for that in good soil, there are those who, hearing the word, hold it fast in an honest and good heart and bear fruit with patience. Right. You notice they're different. You put them all together and you get the whole story of the parables, right? Okay. Lamp under a jar. No one, after lighting a lamp, covers it with a jar and puts it under a bed, but puts it on a stand so that those who enter it may see the light. For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest. Famous verse they're using nowadays, right? Nor is anything secret that will not make known and come to light. Take care then how you hear. For the one who has, more will be given. From the one who has not, even what he thinks he has will be taken away. Okay. Jesus' mothers and brothers. Now, we read this in different parts of Matthew yesterday. Then his mother and brothers came to him, but they could not reach him because of the crowd, and he was told, "Your mother and brothers are standing outside desiring to see you." But he answered them, "My mother and my brothers are those who hear the word of God and do it." Jesus calms the storm. One day he got into a boat with his disciples, and he said to them, "Let us go across to the other side of the lake." So they set out. And as they sailed, he fell asleep, and a windstorm came down on the lake, and they were filling with water and were in danger. And they went and woke him, saying, "Master, Master, we are perishing." And he woke and rebuked the wind and the raging waves, and they ceased, and there was calm. And he said to them, "Where is your faith?" And they were afraid, and they marveled, saying to one another, "Who then is this, that he commands even the winds and water, and they obey him?" Who indeed, right? Who indeed? Jesus healed the man with the demon. Then he sailed to the country of Gerasenes, which is opposite of Galilee. When Jesus had stepped out on the land, there met him a man from the city who had demons. For a long time he wore no clothes, and he had not lived in a house, but among the tombs. Man of the tombs. Right? When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell down before him and said with a loud voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God?" They know, all right. "I beg you to not torment me," for he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. For many a time it had seized him and had kept him under guard and bound with chains and shackles, but he would break the bonds and be driven by the demon into the desert. Jesus then asked him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Legion," for many demons had entered him. And And they begged him not to command them to depart into the abyss. Now a large herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside, and they begged him to let him enter these. So he gave them permission. The demons came out of them and entered the pigs, and the herd rushed down the steep bank and into the lake and drowned. When the herdsmen saw what had happened, they fled and told it in the city and in the country. The people went out to see what had happened, and they came to Jesus, found the man from whom the demons had gone, sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. And those who had seen it told them how the demon-possessed man had been healed. And all the people surrounding the country of Gerasenes asked him to depart for them, for they were seized with great fear. So he got into the boat and returned. The man from whom the demons had gone begged that he might be with him. But Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return to your home and declare how much God has done for you." And he went away, proclaiming throughout the whole city how much Jesus had done for him. All right. That's one of my favorite parts of the New Testament. Okay. Okay. And if you look up a song, you can find it's called Man of the Tombs. Okay. One of the greatest songs ever written. I did a video about that, Man of the Tombs. Okay. You can probably find it way back a couple years ago. 2023, I think. Also one of my favorite songs ever written. Hey, Jesus heals a woman and Jairus' daughter. Now when Jesus returned, the crowd welcomed him, for they were all waiting for him. And there came a man named Jairus, who was a ruler of the synagogue, and falling at Jesus' feet, he implored him to come to his house, for he had an only daughter, about 12 years of age, and she was dying. And Jesus went. The people pressed around him, and there was a woman who had a discharge of blood, right, for 12 years. And though she had spent all her living on physicians, she could not be healed by anyone. She came up behind him and touched the fringe of his garment, and immediately her discharge of blood ceased. Right? Now, back then, if you were in that time of the month for women, right? All right, they were considered unclean, cannot be touched, cannot be eaten, cannot do anything, cannot go near anybody. If you touch them, you're unclean. So that was like worse than a death sentence, okay, for 12 years of her life. All right. Jesus said, "Who was it that touched me?" When all denied it, Peter said, "Master, the crowds around you are pressing in on you." But Jesus said, "Someone touched me, for I perceive the power has gone out from me." And when the woman saw that she was not hidden, she came trembling and falling down before him, declared in the presence of all the people why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed. And he said to her, this part always makes me tear up even still. Okay? "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." This is the only person in the Gospels that Jesus calls daughter. Okay? Amazing. While he was still speaking, someone from the ruler's house came and said, "Your daughter is dead. Do not trouble the teacher anymore." But Jesus, on hearing them, answered this, "Do not fear, only believe, and she will be well." And when he came to the house, he allowed no one to enter the room except Peter and John and James and the father of the mother and the child. Right? And all were weeping and mourning for her, but he said, "Do not weep, for she is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him, knowing that she was dead. But taking her by the hand, he called, saying, "Child, arise." And her spirit returned. Right? So her spirit leaves you when you're dead, right? And she got up at once, and he directed that something should be given her to eat. And her parents were amazed, but charged them to tell no one what had happened. Right? She could probably tell one of those stories, right? Like kids tell today of seeing heaven and the lights and stuff coming back to life. That'd be interesting. So there you go. That's today's reading, and we will, like us, I'll mark that complete. All right. Parables begin. So we know where we're at. So there you go. That's day 14 of 92. So lots of good stuff. Okay. I mean, I've read this in 60 years as a Christian. I've read this hundreds and hundreds of times, and it's still, there's parts of it that still affect you, as it should, right? As it should, because this is historical truth. So there you go. Catch up on any you may have missed, and give us a like if you think about it. And tomorrow we'll do it again. See you then.